So estate planning is not just the writing of a will or creation of a trust. It is making plans for your later parts in life so that you can continue to support your family towards the end of your life and then in the next. So the collection of documents can include things like a will, a trust, and most people who are not familiar with a trust don't know that it's really just a legal document that governs the transfer of your assets via a trustee for the benefit of others. And I'll talk a little bit more about that if you guys have any questions, but I don't want to get too deep into it because typically when it comes to the legal space, questions beget more questions. There's always more to get to and deeper down, and it can get very complex very fast. So I just want to provide you with some of the most important information for you to take with you today. So wills, trusts, healthcare directives, powers of attorney, an assignment of any business interests that you have and the correlating contracts for that, and then your minor guardianship nominations. So those are types of documents that you can have prepared that would create the estate plan. The planning part is where you combine the things that you want to have happen in place, and also having the tools and the resources and the documents in place to affect those wishes. One of the things that people consider is where does this value come in if I'm going to see an attorney, which is a pretty big step for a lot of people. If I'm going to go see an attorney, where is that value coming in? What am I paying for? What am I doing here? Why do I need this? So in every state, there are a set of laws that governs what happens to the things that you own, your assets, your homes, your cars, your 401ks, your life insurance. There are rules that every state has about what happens when you pass. That state will then determine who your heirs are. There's usually a set of rules that defines who will inherit your estate and then what portions. And then when you go through that process, in order to transition, say, a property into your beneficiaries or your children's name, you have to go to the court. You have to create a petition where you ask the court to oversee the transition of your assets to the next generation. That process can be very expensive. It can be very timely. And people don't consider the fact that if there's bank accounts locked up, there's money that's out of hand at that point, the bills don't get paid on the property, the taxes don't get paid on the property. Where does that money come from if everything is going through this probate process? I personally am learning the probate process as well, and I filed my grandmother's estate 3 years ago. And I'm not the administrator of the estate, so that is in somebody else's hands to move through that process efficiently. And if they're not going to move through it efficiently, there's really nothing you can do about it. So there's, that part of it. They do, however, provide a mechanism through the court for making sure that your assets are protected in the event that somebody is misappropriating or doing things that they shouldn't with the money in the estate. So the first thing that the court is going to do before it even authorizes you to distribute an estate is to identify your creditors. They want to make sure that your creditors get paid before any of your bills get paid. And the estate planning process can help you opt out of that. That is a lot of the value that you get out of having an estate plan, is that you get to opt out of what the estate is going to choose for you in the event that you don't make any selections for yourself. The other thing that goes through the probate courts are conservatorships and guardianships. So if you have an elder parent, if you have a minor child that you're responsible for, you're the guardian for, the court is going to nominate and then provide them the legal documentation to oversee your children on a day-to-day basis, and then as it relates to the money that is required to take care of your children. With that said, everybody that's good with children is not also good with money. So you want to think through those things very carefully, and life isn't promised. Things happen, and we want to just be prepared and have an idea of what it is that we want to see happen so that we are not leaving those choices and those things up to a court of people who you don't know. So when we talk about the value of having an estate plan, that is where that value comes from. You get to make your own decisions. You get to opt out of some of these court processes if that's what you choose to do, but it offers you some protection in that sense. All right, so what is it that an estate planning attorney does? We gather information and we condense it and we summarize it for your benefit, and then we can help you make recommendations for what it is that you want to do with your estate. And then we can create the documents that are necessary for establishing that estate and the rules that will govern your estate. And then we'll make sure that they are in accordance with the state laws that are in effect. And then depending on the type of estate planning attorney that you get, they may also provide some tax services, some legal tax information. Right now, the federal estate tax is at $12 million. So that means that if you are not passing with an estate at about $12 million, you won't have a federal estate tax liability. Georgia doesn't have a state estate tax, but if you have been given property in a different state or another place or another country, they may have different laws as it relates to that state tax. And if you own property in different states, an estate must be opened in every state that you own that property. So, there's a lot of information that is required when we talk about doing the estate planning. So your attorney will help guide you and provide that information of what you need to do to move forward. So then drafting and then executing those documents, making sure they're properly witnessed, they're properly notarized, that they are filed properly, such that in the event that something does happen to you, everybody can be informed about what the next steps are, what it is your wishes were, and to make sure that if there is any contest, that your documents have been properly executed so that they will stand up to any challenge that anybody else might have. So when you consider choosing counsel for your estate plan, you want to look for someone who has some infrastructure around the process. And when I say that, I mean protecting of your time. We worked using a lot of digital processes that allowed for us to only have one meeting that was about 2.5 hours. The estate planning process, as I mentioned, is very time intensive and is very information intensive depending on the size of the assets and the things that you're transitioning. So what kind of infrastructure do they have around making the process simplified for you? Can you do it completely virtually? What is your time commitment gonna look like? What is being offered for your plan? What types of services are they offering? Do they offer a way for you to transition your business because businesses are governed by different types of contractual documents, and you can't put that in an estate plan necessarily. They have to have their own ways to transition a business. You can't just give it to somebody necessarily. However, again, with the state thing, if you make no choices, then the state's gonna choose that for you. So if you do have a business, I know we talked about some multipreneurs earlier that have several businesses, so you want to make sure that your attorney can offer you some contractual advice about how to transition those things. Do they offer trust funding? That's going to be a term of art for how to make sure that your trust is operational. But sometimes attorneys will create the trust, but they won't walk you through the funding process. And the funding part, if you are interested in a trust later on, is key to it. You can have a document, but if there's nothing for the document to govern, it doesn't work, it doesn't operate. So understanding whether your attorney does the trust funding process and who they may choose to do the trust funding process for you is something that you want to look at. The timeline for the process. We like to try to get ours done within 30 to 90 days. so that you can get it off your plate. We want you to be done with it. We want to streamline that process because a halfway done estate plan is the same as having no estate plan. So if you don't finish the process, you don't get to the point where you've executed your documents, you've signed them, you've done what you needed to do, it doesn't help you. So you want to look at how long is it going to take me to get through the process. I would recommend considering somebody who would do all of your appointments up front to schedule them at one time so that you don't have to go back and they don't have to follow up with you 3 or 4 times about your documents. Excuse me. And then the most important question that people ask is, how much does that cost? What am I looking at? Like I said, the attorney is going to gather the information. They are knowledgeable of your state's rules. They're going to help you draft your documents. They're going to provide recommendations for lots of scenarios. And in a second, I'll go through a couple of those. But on the low end, and not everybody needs a trust. I know it's a buzzword right now. It's all over the internet. Everybody doesn't need a trust. That's just the fact. It's not beneficial for everybody to have one. So a will do just fine for a lot of people. So if you go see an attorney about that, you can look to spend somewhere between $2,000 to $3,000. That's going to be kind of on your low end. The more complex you get, the more you want to do, the more tax liability you may have, the more businesses you have, the more properties you have, the more you want to do as far as your distribution, the more beneficiaries, the more life insurance policies. As you continue to accumulate your wealth, you can look to spend somewhere between $12,000 and $15,000. That is for our, ultra millionaires that are really, wanting to do some complicated things with their trust and their estates. Again, you may fall somewhere in between, but you just want to make sure that the attorney that you're using is knowledgeable and that they have some of those other key things that I talked about as far as vetting them and looking at the services they provide. So I know everybody's not going to run out and spend that, at a minimum $2,000 or $3,000. So here are some things that you could really work on doing in the meantime, while you're working towards getting to the place where you retain an attorney. You want to identify some key roles in your life. In a will, the person is called an administrator. In a trust, a person is called a trustee. Those are the roles of the people who are going to be most important as it relates to your trust plan. They are going to take the document as it was created, and they are going to take on the personal task of identifying everything in your estate, identifying your wishes, and then going through either the probate process, or if you're opting for a trust, they will do it on their own, but they will work on getting your properties redeeded. They'll work on distributing your life estate, your insurance plans, all of those things that you may have left behind. Within your trust plan, you can also provide for them the guidance to hire an attorney to do those things for them. And you can also, which I think is great, you can offer to pay those people for that role. It's not something you want to leave in the hands of someone just because they're related to you. They need to be able to read well. They need to have some integrity and some ethics. They need to move forward quickly and with efficiency. So when we identify the roles of an administrator or a trustee, those are some of the things that you want to look at. They don't necessarily need to be your children. They could be a trusted advisor, someone who's willing to take on that task. You want to identify people like your healthcare agents. When you get a healthcare directive that governs your end of life, as far as where you're going to live. Are you going to be in a special assisted living facility? Are you going to be at home? Where do you want to be? Who's paying for that? Who's hiring your nurses, who's overseeing your nurses, who's making your choices if you cannot speak for yourself, if you're in a comatose state or something of that effect. I know we've got a lot of healthcare people in here, so your healthcare agent is a totally separate role. It could be the same. Some of these roles may overlap, but you want to look at who your healthcare agents are. Are they specially equipped to make certain decisions for you? A power of attorney agent. A power of attorney is a document. The agent is the person. So if you're looking to appoint an agent, a power of attorney does things like mail, taxes, things that you would do, pay your bills, things of that nature. So your agent on your behalf, who you're appointing is going to be important. Again, some of these roles may overlap, but that's not required. And then your minor guardians or conservators, like I said, the people that we may choose to raise our children in the event that we're not there to do it ourselves, or may not be the same people you want to look over the finances that you leave for your children. So think about those things. And then identify your assets. And this is something that I provide my clients regardless of whether they move forward with the estate planning process. Because it is so important. The last thing you want to do in the event that something happens is have people scrambling to find your stuff. Most people don't realize that if you cannot find, or the state can't find, and you can't find the owner, the assets of things, that's money that goes to the state. And the last thing we need to do is give anything else to the state necessarily. So, we worked a long time. Our parents, our grandparents have worked a lot their whole lives to preserve these assets for us. We want to make sure they know where they are. We want them to know what they are, what it is that they're looking for. So you want to make sure that you've created at least like a spreadsheet, or you've made a folder that includes your properties, your titles, your deeds, any mortgage information. Because your mortgage doesn't stop just because somebody has passed. So you want to keep that information somewhere. Any retirement plans, pensions, all of those documents with the administrator, that's the company that will oversee the distribution of your 401k or your pensions. You want to make sure you have account information for that. Your life insurance policies, you want to make sure that you have, again, a printout. Who's the company? What's the account number? You want to keep your beneficiaries up to date. The life insurance goes outside of a traditional estate. So regardless of whether you've opened an estate or not, your life insurance company is going to pay out whoever's the beneficiary on those accounts. So you want to keep that up to date. You want to make sure that they know where those policies are so that they can use them when the time comes. And then any other inheritances, any wills that you have for your parents or anybody else, any trusts where you have been named, any wills where you have been named, your own will, your own trust, have those documents somewhere. Let somebody know where those things are. And then the other thing is just contemplating certain scenarios. Only you would know what your life looks like and what is going to look like for your children and your family to be there and to carry on when you're not there to do those things for yourself. So you want to think about, I own a house and I want my kids to keep this house in the family. How are those bills going to get paid if I'm not here? Who's gonna make sure that the property taxes, have I listed somebody, a trusted family member on my bank account so that when I transition, there's money somewhere for these bills to still get paid? What does that look like? What happens if I'm not there to pick up my kids? Is there a plan in place? There's actually a website for those that have kids that provide free information. I can tell you about that later. It's called the kidsprotectionplan.com. That's kidsprotectionplan.com. It's a free website, and what they do is you can put in information for the people that you want to take possession of your children if like there's an emergency. And so you've already listed a nomination. Nobody wants their children in police or state custody while somebody's trying to figure it out. So having those things in place, what happens? What happens if I'm sick? what happens if my spouse is no longer working. And then I'm going to leave you guys with this because we've spoken to a lot of people about the preparedness part of this. Everybody's not going to have a lot to leave. That's just the nature of things. You want to live a life well lived, and spending a lot of time and energy trying to accumulate assets is a lot of work. But there are things like life insurance, which is a wildly underutilized resource for funding an estate. Having some type of short-term insurance or long-term life insurance is a very quick and easy way to leave large amounts. And the earlier you get it, the cheaper it is over time, but that's the fastest way for you to inject millions into an estate. I started mine, it's like $100 a month, and I think I have $2 million. So somewhere to start somewhere with that. It's a really easy way for you to go ahead and get started with those type of things. So I just want you guys to position yourself. We talked about positioning thyself in this. So position yourself to benefit your family. Think about what that looks like when you're not there so that they can grieve and they can move on with their lives and they can do what they need to do and provide for them in that way. So I hope I provided you with a great amount of information that you can take with you. Thank you.
Lydia, you actually gave way more. You said if you gave us enough. I appreciate you so much. As I told you all, she's a powerhouse. I do want to be mindful. Thank you. I thank you so much. I do want to be mindful of your time, because if you all know me, I am a time-conscious person. And just looking at the clock, I realize that we've run over. There is one last session, and then we can dismiss. I will have Bishop dismiss you. The original plan was I would come back with a challenge for you all, and it was going to be the manifestation and the implementation of money and melanin. That was my last appeal to you, and I am going to make it now. And for those of you, I know some of you have sacrificed your time. I would want you to stay for the next 20 minutes, but however, if you could not, I understand, because I do understand that 11 to 2 was our original plan, and we have run over with a wealth of information. I hope you've enjoyed it today, and I hope it was beneficial to you. There might be one session that spoke more to your situation than another, but whatever you got out of here, if it's one thing that's going to change your mind, because money and melanin is a real thing. And the reason I'm challenging you is because when we speak of money and we speak of wealth, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? How many of you actually have a melanated person as your vision when you speak of wealth? So Minister Bryant spoke to that. He has a whole powerhouse of millionaires around him. And it elevated him as he spoke. So if your vision of somebody says somebody that's a millionaire, your first answer is Ted Turner. You know, someone that's impersonal to you. I challenge you to get a circle that will grow with you. Now, we may not all be millionaires now, but let's grow together. Let's empower each other. Let's sow into each other. But I do want to be mindful, and if you know my heart, I'm going to speak to it on every challenge. It starts spiritually. You cannot surround people that do not think like you, people that cannot rise up like you, people that do not have any integrity and expect to prosper. It's just not something that's going to happen. If your best friend is very, very worldly, that's the best word I can choose, and you have just accepted, and your comment for your friend is always, that's just who she is, that's just who he is, you already know you're in a challenging friendship. Because your friend should be, oh yeah, that's my girl. Not, girl, that's who she is. You know, if you're always making excuses, you already know you're in a situation that should not be. Or someone hasn't grown. Because when you say that's who she is and she's still the person she was at 30, that's a challenge. I'm 57. If my friend is still walking from 30 and we're 57 and I'm still making the same excuses, we need to sit down and have a conversation. So I challenge you every day, affirm wealth in your life, affirm God first. Ask God for the kingdoms to financial finances. I want you to do that every day. Let's start with 7 days, move it to 14, move it to 21. And as Minister Brian said, at that point, it'll become part of your morning ritual. We need to speak wealth, but the main reason we always talk about wealth, my main goal for wealth is so I can sow into others. I want money so I can bless the kingdom. And I posted something recently, and I got more phone calls about this post than I expected. But it said, if all your prayers were answered today, would it change the world or would it change yours? If you pray, if the only thing you're praying is for the changes around yourself, I can tell you the manifestation of it may not happen. Because that means you haven't surrounded yourself with people that you want to bless. Because if you want to bless people, you're not going to be the only one in the center of your prayers. Okay? So I am going to step away. I'm going to hand the mic without ado to Bishop Leach. And he is the father and the overseer of this house. And he is going to ask us, is our business saved? If you have to step out, I understand, but I will tell you, you're in for a treat if you can stick around for the next 20 minutes. He will dismiss from here. I will not come back up. So I want to tell you all, thank you for coming. Thank you for believing in the vision that God gave me. I'm always elated and emotional about how people show up when God gives me a vision. Because when you're manifesting it, you wonder, there's always that struggle because the enemy is real. Is this my flesh or is this God? But the one thing that I can say, if you know me, is God is real. I stand on him, and that's why I move forward. So please only follow me as I follow Christ. If it's my flesh, challenge me. I give everyone that. That is my charge to everyone around me. If you think it's my flesh, let's talk about it. That doesn't mean you're right, but I'm willing to heal you out if it's going to help me grow in Christ. So in Jesus' name, I thank you all again. I thank you. I plead the blood over you. I hope that he sees you. I plead the blood over your finances. I plead the blood over your families, your friends, your community. And I'll ask you to step out and be a blessing to those around you as well as yourself. And as Patricia told you all, but you have to take care of yourself to take care of community and family next, okay? All right.
Well, it's just like when I do a lot of funerals, you have all the people come up and they do all their little talk before the thing, and then you got to do the message, and they put you on a cart and wheel you out with the body to go to the cemetery. But first of all, I want to thank God for Dr. Angie just having a heart to come here, and to each of you who've been able to speak today. Now, one of the things I want to tell you is two things. If you're hot, our air conditioner went out. And when that giving sign went up there, you give toward that. We need new AC, and the guy that works on it, he was up here cutting yard yesterday, and he's at home, and so he said, tell him to give toward it. Number two, I just put in a text to the network, and the speakers, you'll hear from me that we will develop a business training network. Because in here you got a few people, but if you do it on a network, you can reach a whole lot of other people. And we stream here through holderconnection.tv, YouTube, and Facebook. But if you just give me 5 minutes, I'll give you a nugget that will change your life. Y'all ready? I'm an old school. I came up in the 70s in business at the University of Tennessee. So there's a book out called The Spook That Sat by the Door. I'm him. It mean I was trained in Caesar's house a whole lot of things. I worked, my career was at Mobile Oil Company running the Southeast, but in the midst of that, I too had real estate license. I was a planner for family stewardship and estate planning. I still do now from time to time. I set up churches, do their portfolio so they can come to a bank and be ready for money, so the books won't be raggy. So somebody got to get them together. I get them healed. It's just like getting young people to get their credit score up. I get businesses' credit score up. So I got my training with Success Motivation Institute back in the 80s with Paul Myers in Waco, Texas. And one of the things he challenged us is to develop our systems to minister to people, because most of the people there were ministers, young ministers in business. And so I was sitting there to say, are you running a Christian business? That was the question I asked everybody when I walk in. Are you running a Christian business? Here's my three favorite right here. Chick-fil-A, Truett Cathy. I coached for him for 10 years over in Jonesboro, Georgia. He paid for the whole block. And now Andrew is running the place. They paid for First Baptist Church of Jonesboro. They paid for the whole block because that's how he gave back, is to sports. Recreation Outreach Center. It's called a ROC. Up top, you have Hobby Lobby, David Green. David Green, 3 years ago, gave his business away. $14 billion business, he gave it to his employees and retired. Now that's a blessing. He trained them and gave them the business. Then at the bottom is John Whelan. If you go throughout Atlanta, one of the best builders around is John Whelan. John Whelan made probably about $30 billion, walked away from it, and now he's at the High Museum of Art. He took all of his money and went around and bought art and put it in a museum where children can come and look at it free. That's giving back. These three right here, they didn't run their businesses on Sunday because they gave that to God. They gave, what you said, 10%? They gave 20, 30, and 50%. We was in a seminar, one of them was saying, I'm gonna tell you who said that. The next question, are you a Christian in business? But you all know Dave, from the Wendy's. He said, why don't you do so well with God and give so much away if he's gonna multiply it, where you live off the 10% and you give away the 90%. And Wendy's is never going out of business. Everybody remember Mary Kay? How many of you were Mary Kay people? Now that's what women got in business for giving, because they didn't sell nothing. They just gave everything to their friends, bought the kit. Some people got the pink Cadillac, but not too many people did. And of course, Tyson Foods. Then my question is always, where's God in your business? Number one, do you glorify God in your business? You did well with that. I'm just doing, I got a chance to do the wrap up because you all cleared it out. Y'all threw the bricks, so I just said it, they said it. Do you honor God in business practices with integrity and honesty and respect? Do you positively impact everybody you encounter? Your product is not you. Your product is getting people to you, whether it be your customers or your employers. The third thing I have, making God the what? Owner. When you give it all to God, if he owns it, if it breaks down, then it's his job. Not just the church, your business. Because he said that whatever you commit unto me, I'm faithful to keep that. And you read in the Bible where it was in famine time, but the people who with God were prospering. You can sow in famine and reap. I've never been broke a day in my life. Because my wife will tell you, I don't need money, I need God. I know what it is to have $1 million and know what it have ask her for $1. But that was my choice. I was able to walk away from corporate at the age of 36. Walk away. I spent 44 years in it. I decided that I could go out and make $1 million because I was trained well to do it. I did a whole lot of things. All these other stuff I did are called tent making. But I decided my calling was to be with God. And I've never seen the righteous forsaken nor a seed begging bread. Pastor Gwen, she may look like a little teacher, but she was in corporate with Warner Lambert, one of the top salespeople around. And she knew what it was to go through racism and be the first one out the door. The prized possession, they'll kill you in a minute. But when you work for God, he works for you. And so just to give you a story, some of you may have the money in your pocket. I ain't trying to preach the money in your pocket, but I'm going to let you know this. We decided 32 years ago to plant a church in East Point. We purchased a warehouse. The people in the church thought we were crazies, even Pastor Gwen. I was on my way out of town to do a conference. The Lord said, buy the building. We stayed in the building about maybe 10 years, and the Lord said, sell it. When we sold the building, we bought the building for, I tell you, it was $150,000. We sold it for $750,000. Okay, we bought this building 2018. We purchased the building for $650,000. Today it's worth $1.1 million. And we only have 30 people. We have 30 people who know how to tithe and believe God. I spend time teaching them how to count. I spend time teaching them how to get their business straight. We talk about wills and trust and don't go by that what you want. We teach them how to sell out. They saw me sell my car for the sake of the ministry. It was a Bentley. Sold it. It didn't matter, because what you give to God, he's going to give back to you. Why? Because God is the owner. I'm just a steward. And whatever belongs to him, he can do with it what he want to do. And he'll in lean times when you don't see God, he shows up. The same God that got you when you was on the mountain shows up when you're in the valley. When I left Mobile Oil, they were mad. But I had a word 10 years earlier, the day they tried to promote you, resign. 10 years to the day. I'm talking about 10 years to the exact date. I retired when they tried to promote me and wanted the job. It was a good job in California, man. But when you sell your heart to God, he takes care of his own. Now, we have not looked back. We have been places that we gave up corporate jobs and just, we don't take a salary. We live off what people give us. Sometimes people we don't know just send stuff. So you do that. Because why? God is the owner, and God takes care of his own, and he makes sure you shall not want, all your needs are met, and give you the desires of your heart. Our passport continue to be stamped because God sends us places, because he sometimes said you need to get on a cruise ship, get away from the telephones, and go rest. So we do that. Number 4, my business is purpose-driven and not dollar-chasing. The moment you start chasing the dollar, it will run away from you. The Bible said make friends with mammon. Make friends with it, but that's not your God. For the love of money is a root, not the root, a root of all evil. God even put money above the devil, because he knew people would chase money. They'll forget about the devil. They'll shoot the devil for money. Y'all know the song, For the Love of Money? You know that. But here's what you talked about. To serve the community by donating your time and your money to better the community, whether it be for the homeless, the hungry, the widows, the orphans, whatever. We fed this Thanksgiving 3 times as many people than in our church. A whole Thanksgiving meal. Collaboration with other businesses. Don't you think God saw that? Feed the hungry. Take care of people. And then honor God with a day of worship. Do not, now my wife had to go through this. Do not be a workaholic. Give God a day. And give your family some time. God, family, then your business. Because those are commodities you should not waste away. And so when you do those things, that you'll find that God can use you. I'm going to finish with this point right here. This is a new thing that came up here in the late 80s and 90s called marketplace ministry. And that's what I wanted to talk about, is how you integrate in the workplace as an individual witness to Christ. When somebody walk in, they should see, you don't have to have a big cross all on your neck and pins. When they walk in, just your demeanor, just your spirit should let them know that there's something different about you. That's how you show love. That's how you minister to people, whatever your business is. And then it said, it emphasizes that work itself can be a form of worship and a means to advance the kingdom of God. Your works, they will see your good works and glorify God. When they meet you, I have a 43-year-old doctor. When he comes in, you know he belongs to God. And I just sent him a text and I said, I got $1 million idea for you. I'm going to make you're going to be a millionaire before you're 65. Because we had just had a discussion. I said, boy, you're going to be rich. You do what you need to do for me, and I'm going to do what I need to do for you. And today, you all gave me some more nuggets to give him that he's going to be a millionaire guaranteed before he's 65. Because he's saved, he's born again, he's a giver, and he loved people. He gave up an $800,000 a year doctor job to work at GenCare over in Clayton County for senior citizens. And I told you, boy, you had to meet me. God brought you here so that you can help me, but my job is to help you. We don't just preach in the pulpit wherever we are. Of course, Dr. Andrew would know, if you're anywhere with my wife, it could be in the airport, in the restaurant, in the grocery store, in the department store. Before they know it, they're going to see glad tidings happen. I pray that you be filled with the knowledge of his will. How many of you getting ready to start a business? Start it from, do it like this. Oh, you already there. You just moving stuff around. I mean, I was shouting back there just listening to you. I said, that was me. Oh, yeah, I've been through that too. Oh yeah. I overcame again by the word of your testimony. I got saved all over again. I said, God, you getting ready to do something. So I pray that you be filled with the knowledge of his will, that you might walk worthy of the vocation for which you've been called, that you know that God sanctifies you wholly, spirit, soul, and body, that you are a vessel for the kingdom. And for such a time as this, you were born that you may reach somebody. And God will allow you to reach somebody in 24 hours that has the next key to your destiny, and you have the key to theirs. The keys of the kingdom is that you can unlock your destiny by helping somebody. You can unlock your destiny by being a good example of who Jesus is. Jesus was a carpenter, and he went about doing good. Paul was a tent maker. Whatever you are, you've been gifted and talented to do that. Do it well. The way you become wealthy is to do the same thing that you have been gifted to do over and over and over again to somebody else, and all of a sudden you'll look back and you'll be just like the Reverend Brian. It's what you know will get you to who you know. Is that right? They talked about your mental condition, your body condition, your thought life. One of the things we used to walk out, when I walk away from here, I want to ask you my final question. Do you have a millionaire mindset? That if you do, then let this mind be in you that's also in Christ Jesus, who thought it not robbery to be equal to God. What was he saying? God owns everything. The cattle on the hill and the hill. And when you do that, you'll walk into a place where you look around, we close the loan, and then a week later, did you all know how many acres y'all? Well, we thought we just had the little block. It's 6.5 acres. And I said, somebody with money can come in and build houses for senior citizens, and so the baby boomers need somewhere to go. Just kind of helping y'all out. Some of y'all want to do certain things. Just pray about it. God will tell you. Now unto him who's able to keep you from falling, present you faultless before the presence of his glory. To the only wise God, our Father, to him be dominion and power, and to him who's able to do exceedingly, abundantly, far above all we can ask or think, according to the power that works within us. I love Jesus. He loves me. Because he loves me, I love you. Tell somebody.
Hallelujah. Hey guys, I know I said I wasn't coming back, but I've had some questions about the things that are on the table. I know the notebook and the pen are obvious, but the keychain, if you look at it, I know like our gentleman, I know you all don't want to be running around with this keychain. Here's the keychain right here. This right here, but there is a token to let you know that I love you. The small black piece on there, that is the logo for Black Girls in White Coats. But I know you don't want, all of you don't want to be like me, like broadcasting here. And this one here, this is a bottle opener. And this is for you to open your future. Keep it with you, keep it in your purse. It's really cute, but it's a bottle opener. So, and we talked about the notebooks, the gift bags, so you all wouldn't have to run out of here with all those things in your hands. I do want you to be mindful. You have the keys, literally and figuratively. All right, so we'll dismiss. If anyone wants to take pictures or anything like that, we did put one of the logos out. There is some more food. If you want to take some with you, just help yourself. And I thank you again for coming. Oh, yeah. Can everyone just kind of pick up their trash? There's a trash